This is A2A's latest flagship, the Aerostar 600. She is a persistent state aircraft, which makes her one of the most realistic aircraft that you can fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator 20 or 24. A2A have now fully released the Aerostar 600 and they asked me if I would be willing to review it. Now, I'm a long-time fan of A2A, all the way back to the FSX days, so I immediately accepted their very kind invitation. In addition, they have also offered me a couple of keys to give away, so do listen through to the end if you would like the chance of winning one of these fantastic aircraft. Now, because this was out in early access, I didn't have access to the early access stuff, but a lot of people did, so there's a lot of coverage for this aircraft already. And as such, you've no doubt seen the internal and external modelling, you've heard just how realistic the audio is, and been saturated with heaps of praise regarding the flight model experience. So I won't bore you with more of the same. Instead, what I'm going to try and do is convey to you just how important persistent state is and how much it can affect your flying experience in an aircraft like this Aerostar 600. As little as 5 years ago, there were virtually zero real-world pilots creating YouTube content for flight sims. Now it seems they have dominated the platform, and no doubt for very good reason. I would like to hear from a real pilot how realistic a sim is, and learn their tips and tricks in order to fly more realistically, so it does make sense. My personal issue though with many of these real-world pilots, not all of them, but some of the creators, is their lack of understanding of what real-world simulation actually means, and furthermore, why it is so important. Too often they are quick to dismiss career mode, missions and even aircraft persistence, and I find this to be absolutely preposterous because they are completely missing the point, and they're missing the point because they have real-world flight opportunities available to them, whereas the majority of flight sim fans do not. So the reality is that very few real-world pilots get to fly anywhere that they please whenever it suits them. It's either their bosses or the customers that they work for who dictate where they go and when. Career mode simulates that real-world element of flying for a reason, not just flying for the sake of flying. The same goes with missions. Training is essential for new aircraft, and trying out new skills and pushing yourself to the limit. It's another area where real-world simulation is spectacularly important. Just as real pilots do, this is how you test, grow and evolve your skill set. But sadly, the most neglected, despite it being the most important and most real-world realistic element of all, is aircraft persistence. Because as we all know, in the real world, mistakes happen, accidents happen, and wear and tear is a regular occurrence. A brief example, if I may. You're coming into land in rough conditions and you deploy your flaps slightly early and you've oversped. Now there's a really good chance that something might break, or at least be damaged to the point where the next time you fly, it will break. So the next time that you fly, it isn't magically fixed in the real world like it is in a flight simulator. Although, let's be honest, for these real world airline pilots, etc., they do have a team of people running around fixing these aircraft, and they have zero care or attention to what is actually happening once they step off that aircraft. But if you're a small commercial flight company, perhaps you own one plane, your company, your plane, it's up to you to either fix it or fly with it in that broken state. And sometimes when you're delivering goods to, say, areas that are maybe just grass strip areas, you might have no alternative other than to fly that aircraft back in a slightly less than perfect condition. And that is going to push your skills as a pilot to the limit, and also your understanding of the aircraft. Now, if you take all of the individual components of an aircraft, the oil, the spark plugs, the landing gear, the batteries, and you make all of this stuff persistent, all of a sudden, your immersion levels will have quadrupled in the flight sim. Real-world pilots don't want the hassle of broken parts and things that wear out over time, but real sim fans, people who would like to be a pilot but aren't, absolutely desire this, probably more than anything else. I was really hoping Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 would have realised this and implemented the ability to have persistent aircraft from the base level, but sadly they haven't. So the reality is, with this aircraft, if you don't check and maintain it properly, sooner rather than later you are going to have an incident, perhaps mid-flight, and you might not be skilled enough to survive it. This is real world simulation. Things can and do go wrong all of the time. And if you're not experienced enough and understand your aircraft enough, you're going to crash. This is something that real world aviation fans want to get a taste of, is that reality of life, you know, that real world situational experience. I'm sick and tired of watching content creators start up a plane, do a run up, take off, fly to wherever they're going and land. How boring is that? I mean, it's just the same every time. You know nothing's ever going to go wrong. You know nothing's ever going to fall apart or come apart, you know? There's no reality to it. I mean, you would hope that 99% of your flights are indeed problem-free. But it's always on the back of your mind. Did I check this? Did I check that? Is that damaged weak element going to hold out until I can get back to base and have it repaired? That's what I want from a simulator, and that is what A2A bring with their persistent aircraft. I have been a strong advocate of aircraft persistence in all flight simulators for nearly 10 years, and it's primarily because of the first experience that I had flying A2A C-172 for the first time. That was my first ever taste of A2A's aircraft, and when I purchased it, I didn't really understand what I was buying into. I was playing FSX at the time, and I was doing an air hauler career mode, and I was trying to do it as realistically as humanly possible. I had worked my way up to buying a second-hand C-172, and on our maiden flight, the engine caught fire, and in my panic to get her back on the ground, I broke one of the flaps. Prior to this experience, I could have taken off in any aircraft in any condition and treat it as though it had been modified especially for air acrobatics. Nothing ever broke, nothing ever went wrong, nothing was ever too much for the aircraft. Because it didn't matter, nothing was really that realistic enough that I would have to fly properly. And the truth is now, even if you turn on engine stresses and aircraft stresses and stuff, that's very basic stuff. All that does is stop you from flying. It doesn't actually break the aircraft, which is what a persistent aircraft does. So because it didn't matter, and nothing was realistic enough that anything would ever be damaged or broken, it would always be 100% perfect condition the next time I flew. And A2A changed all of this with their AccuSim simulation overlay, which took the basic flight sim model of FSX and gave it this real-world persistence. Suddenly, I am responsible for the upkeep and condition of this aircraft. Each time I fly, there is the potential of a blocked exhaust or an inlet pipe, faulty electrical components, or damage from the previous flight. And that is both exciting and immersive, and how I fly does actually matter with this aircraft. If I don't run the engine up and get the oil temperatures where they should be, I am going to damage the engine. I might even lose one. This is real-world flight simulation. You don't get to turn off window icing in real-world simulation. You have to find a way to fix it or cope with it. Before I took off, I set this Aerostar 600 to auction mode. As in, I bought it from an auction, and I don't necessarily know what condition all the components are in. Now, there is a tablet which will allow you to look and see what all the conditions are. But I just did a walk around, checked the fuel and flaps, but elected not to use that built-in engine simulation tool because I think it's more realistic that you fly it to your home base and get your engineer to check it out for you. Sure, you have a look and make sure that there's oil and there's nothing in the air inlets and stuff like that, obviously. But other than that, you are taking a bit of a risk, and you know, you have to be alert. You have to think about what you're doing, and should the worst happen, you need to be prepared for it. You need to have an emergency airport in your head that you can land at, or a field. If on takeoff you are not going to make it, you try and work out, okay, well, where's the best place to put it down safely? These are all things that you need to think about. I don't know if any of you remember a brilliant TV show called Dangerous Flights. It was epic TV, where pilots agreed to relocate unknown aircraft purchased by clients. Anything and everything could go wrong, and right now, in this flight, I am flying in that same vein, experiencing what does and does not work. So in addition to the auction mode, I also set the chances of a fault happening and the chances of degradation up to its maximum, which is like 1,000 times reality speed. So basically I wanted to see this plane fall apart in midair, was what I was attempting to do, just to give you some idea of what you might face as you're flying around. So hopefully now you will understand why I am so passionate about the A2A products. The DLC that you buy from them is as close to having an Aerostar 600 delivered to your front door as it gets. Yes, I do believe that they could do a lot more with their technology, and certainly Microsoft Flight Simulator could pull their finger out and do a lot more themselves. But until everyone gets on the same page and realises just how much more fun it is to have a persistent aircraft over a static, dead, digital one, then it is only going to be companies like A2A and those who have been inspired by them who will be going that extra mile to produce something which feels like it is an actually living, breathing aircraft. It's a real thing. It's persistent in the real world. It does exist, and the way you leave it is the way you will find it the next time you fly. I hope I've conveyed just how important that is to me, and hopefully inspired you to at least think about trying it. Please leave a comment below, hit the like button if you appreciate this video, and share with your friends. Till next time, take care. Goodbye for now. Good to go. Before these Colombians kill us. Oh, hear how lumpy that is. That's not going to last long. Engine 1 really not happy. Handbrake off. Away we go. You don't have a huge amount of rudder control. Remember, I've got to stay below 500 feet. We're at 100 now. It's starting to pull up. Airborne, gear up. The green lights have gone out. It looks like we've got one of the cylinders back, that's good. Or maybe I'm just... yeah, it looks like we have. All I've got to do now is find the river. There she is. Stay down nice and low. And I forgot to do this again. I wish there was a way you could just set it to auto start recording every time you took off or something. Right. Excuse me. Gotta make sure I'm going the right way, otherwise I get into all sorts of trouble. Hopefully, if we did pop up as a blip on anyone's radar, they'll think we're a helicopter. Okay, 300 feet, that's about where we want to be. Flaps are up. Everything's looking good. Oh, left alternator's just packed up on me. We've lost an engine. Come on, engine 1. That's it. fire up. So I can't drop engine 1 lower than 15 units of manifold pressure or it'll cut out. So there you go, that's our first failure. We haven't even got very far yet. I may have mentioned already that this plane flies incredibly well, even on one engine. So losing an engine isn't the end of the world. Losing 2 is obviously a big problem. In fact, it looks like engine 1 is just mere moments from failing on us. This is not as easy to fly as it was the first time I did it. And there are some pretty tight corners around here. Look at that red over there. Don't know what that is. Bit of sand, I guess. What the hell's going on here? It's all a bit lumpy. Nice and low though. We're below the trees even. Nobody's going to see or spot us. And if they do, we're going to come flying past them so quickly that they'll do well to get our tail number. Yeah, all the water's gone all lumpy. That's very strange. That was a bug in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I thought they fixed it. Nothing at all. She is gone. Well, there's proof of it. We can fly almost as well on one engine as we can on 2. I might drop that RPM back a little bit just to save the engine because she's going to get hot and blow up if I keep her on maximum throttle the whole time. Make flying a little more difficult, I have to say. Still pulling some seriously tight corners all on one engine. I've got to turn off that left alternator because that's going to be sucking power. I don't have this set up particularly well. Trying to use the mouse is getting in the way of the joystick. switch it off like that. It'll be interesting to see whether the replay has both engines running or one of them. Still got my RPMs too high. Let's drop it a little bit more. Oh no! Getting an engine malfunction. I think we're going to lose both engines any second now. So we've got the RPMs down a little bit now. Let's hope it's enough to keep this aeroplane flying. I don't think it's going to be. I think we've lost. I think we've lost the aileron because I just couldn't turn anymore. Maybe it was the RPMs. I don't know. So hopefully I've showed you some useful stuff. And hopefully I've also identified just how fantastic this aircraft is. It's so easy to fly, even with a dodgy aileron and one engine out. You know, I was still hammering those corners at 150 miles an hour. It's such a shame that I didn't get the first recording of that because I got so much further and it was so much cleaner a flight. It was brilliant. I'll definitely be doing that again. And I highly recommend this aircraft. It is such a cool plane. So cool to fly. And you know, if gun running and drug running is kind of your thing, I don't think there are any planes better than this from the 70s and 80s. So 100% highly recommend it to anyone who wants a fun and enjoyable aircraft. Thanks for watching, guys. I shall see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye for now.